We have such glum faces there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the United Way Virtual Campaign Coordinator Training in this virtual environment. Thank you for your patience. We're just waiting for other attendees to join, and while we do that, we'd kind of like to do a check-in and see who's joined us so far. Just as a quick icebreaker, if you'd like, you can, in the Q&A section, if you want to put an emoji about how you're feeling today or how you're feeling about this training, just give us kind of an emoji check-in and let us know how you're doing. You can also, if you'd like to identify yourself, if you've logged in and you're anonymous, when you type into the Q&A, right above that is either anonymous or an opportunity to kind of change your name. So you can do that there as well, so we know who you are if you don't already have a Microsoft Teams account. And then as we kind of proceed today, if there are sections that you have questions about, or content or information or resources, by all means, please feel free to ask those questions in the Q&A section. We will be holding all questions to the end. We do want to make sure to get through all of our topics so that you're all prepared with the most current information we have. And then we will be able to answer those for you at the end from our presenters. And I see an anonymous person put a smiley face. Yes, that's a good start for the day. And I see we have some new attendees, so we will go ahead and get started, and I'll do a reminder about the Q&A. Thank you for participating in the emoji check-in section. We have another anonymous smile. I'm glad we have a happy group of attendees. So thank you for joining us, and we'd like to kick things off with you with our President and CEO, Lo Ann, giving an overview of some of our efforts around our new funding cycle and strategy. We're excited to inform you about.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for carving time out of your busy schedules to join us for this quick training on a new format as we're all trying to adjust to the new normal in our communities, in our families, and in our businesses. We have been flexing and pivoting at United Way, just like businesses have been here. And I want to just give you an overview next of what we've been doing and where we're going, and how your work really makes a difference. You know, one of the things that we have been doing is the money that's coming in every month from payroll deductions that were collected during last year's campaign goes out right away to grants to local organizations. We made a long-term commitment, a 2-year commitment to these organizations. And as we saw COVID hit, we communicated with them and said, you know, we know that you committed to providing these services to this many people, but we also know that some of you can't meet face-to-face for counseling sessions, or you're pivoting to virtual training. And so we just relaxed our restrictions on the last few months of their grants so that they could really be equipped to be responsive to what was happening with their clients and the families that they served. Next. In addition to that, we were listening and we heard, okay, there are so many needs that have been popping up as this pandemic lingers. And 2 specifically ones we chose for our swim lane. We heard over and over again about the tremendous increase in hunger. And that started out bubbling higher and higher as the weeks went by. It particularly is really critical in some of our rural areas, and we have more than 20 food pantries and food banks in our communities that are serving folks. Most have seen a 50 to 70% increase. Many families are coming for the very first time. In fact, I was down at one of our local food banks, and there was a woman and 3 car seats in the back. And she was just kind of, you know, they were lined up in the queue to get food into their trunks, because that's how they safely put the food boxes into people's trunks. And I had a chance to chat with her, and she was a little bit embarrassed because she'd always been a donor and a volunteer, but her husband had been laid off. Her hours had been cut way back. They had 3 kiddos at home. Her mom was moving in with them because her mom could no longer afford to be on her own. And so this was her very first visit to a food bank. And she was just so grateful for other people stepping up to the plate and helping her. It's really about neighbors helping neighbors. Some of us are really blessed to still have jobs, and we are probably more equipped than ever before to reach out and help our neighbors with these issues. The other thing that we heard was this tremendous kind of tsunami of mental and behavioral health challenges. As the weeks went on, kids and families stuck at home. Sometimes home wasn't a safe place for kids, and school was their escape, but now they were home either maybe in an unsafe family setting or alone. And so we saw after about the first month a real uptick in starting to hear more reports of domestic violence, youth on youth violence, suicide attempts. Certainly we heard a lot more from our public safety about predators preying online for kids who are stuck at home. And so we saw more runaways among teens and preteens. So scary. As a mom, it's just frightening. And so we decided that would be another gap. That's really what we do. United Way, for more than 60 years, we've been plugging in our precious donor dollars to fill gaps in services, and these two were jumping way up. And so far, the community has been so responsive. Every week, we have a group of community leaders on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. They look at what money came in, what applications there are, and usually we have about 30 to 35 applications from nonprofits in these two areas. And that community leaders group says, okay, we got 12,000 this week, or 8,000 this week, or 20,000 this week. Who's getting the funds? And we get that money turned around really quickly. So donors give it, it's placed to fill needs. Next. So those are some of the things that we've been doing to help locally. And now, we see that the end is a lot longer, even though it's kind of murky out there. And we've got to move from not just meeting current urgent needs, although we have to continue to make sure people are safe and fed and have a safe place to sleep. But we got to think about what is it going to take to recover from the pandemic, to really rebuild the Tri-Cities better than it was before, to have more kids successfully be ready for kindergarten. More people have access to health care than even before unemployment took its toll. To have more people have access to mental and behavioral health, safe places for people to sleep. So we've moved forward with our 2020 United Way campaign to focus on rebuilding the Tri-Cities as a better place for everyone. And that's really where we need your help. You can communicate with people you work with, share stories, images about what's happening in what little ways they can help, or big ways. Every dollar makes a huge difference. And we just really appreciate your efforts to help us fill those critical gaps to help people not only recover, but rebuild a better tomorrow. I was talking to a nonprofit this week. I talk to 12 to 20 nonprofits every week, just kind of touching bases, and she relayed the fact that one of their clients had a 72-year-old mom who had an adult son with intellectual and physical disabilities. And after being home with just the two of them month after month, her son, she could just see, he didn't want to get out and walk. He actually had stopped eating for a couple of days. He was just getting so withdrawn and depressed, and that affected her health. She's a mom and watching her son suffer. And a local nonprofit was able to get a grant, and so they were able to send someone to her home. So at least a couple times a week, mom got a little bit of a respite. Their son had someone other than mom. They went out for a walk. They talked about a book. They just had spent some time with him in kind of socialization and therapy. Those kinds of services are important, but instead of having him go to a center, it takes a little bit more money now to have one person go out and help one person at a time. And we're seeing that hearing that from the nonprofit agencies, that serving people in the new normal costs more money, whether it's personal protective gear, training, one-on-one services, travel, the extra time. And so not only are they having bigger demand for services, but each service is costing a little bit more. So that puts even more pressure on all of us to step up to the plate and donate whatever we can, either volunteering our time, giving our resources, or both. So we certainly appreciate everything that each of you does to help inform people you work with on how they can help their neighbors have a better future in the Tri-Cities. Thank you, and I'll be around at the end to answer questions.
Thanks, Luann. I appreciate that, and also recognizing that we are all in this unique environment and doing our best to thrive. You know, I just want to also recognize all of you and thank you for agreeing to join us and use your leadership at your organizations to help run and facilitate your campaigns. It means the world to us and the community. It's going to make a big difference in this next year with the campaign. We also understand that your organizations are going through some changes, and so keep us apprised of those. We've tried to prepare as many resources as possible that we could think about in advance in this unpredictable world that can help you operate those and be the most efficient and effective as we can. While we have, we know that some of your organizations have employees that are on site, essential, and in the office in the hallways, as well as a remote workforce. So thank you for your time. And I just want to orient you on some things that we've dreamt up and accessed to help you run your campaigns. So first thing is that we want to make sure that you have content. We want to make sure that there's enough information and email templates for you. If you have newsletters at your organization and you want to leverage some things that have already written, that resource is available to you through the Dropbox. And we also have some digital resources. We know that several of your organizations had, you know, paper versions of things that you might route or post. So we've created some digital content for you. We'll be going over in more detail as well later. We also have some online and or touch-free pledging opportunities just to make things convenient, because several of you do have and will continue to have remote workers. We want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to pledge. And so every organization may not be able to adapt every resource. So we do encourage you for the online pledging or the touch-free pledging options to reach out to your United Way point of contact, which is most likely Heather and I, to start. And we can best fit what that resource is to your organization. Please do plan in advance. A lot of these resources just require some whitelisting from IT or work with IT. And so if you want to have those conversations, we're welcome to have conversations early and often. We also have some virtual special events that will be a resource for you. Heather will be covering later. And a resource that was always available, but that still might be useful for some of you, are posters and flyers. Even though your workplace, there may be several people working remote, you can still use those flyers to route in an email. And I highly advise also posting posters for those who are still walking the halls in your workplace, so that they have information available to them. If they're not someone who's behind a screen, maybe they have like maybe you have union workers or people who are out in the field for whatever reason. When they come into the office to drop off keys and cars and that kind of thing, they'll see information. Virtual meetings and presentations are still an option. We can do presentations in the similar format that you're used to, or we can completely reinvent them as a community conversation. There are several individuals that like to hear from United Way themselves and ask questions themselves. We don't want to close that door, but then we have others who are up to date because they're following us on Facebook and are attending an event. So please know that we have a wide idea bank on how to best utilize Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams meetings, or whatever resource your company uses to help facilitate that communication, so donors have information and have the ability to ask questions. And then virtual volunteerism. Now more than ever, several nonprofits are needing the support of volunteers, but they want to do it in the most safe way possible. So we'll be going over some of those resources as well. Now I think we're going to hand it off to Amanda to talk about some creative, digital-friendly resources. Amanda, I think you're still on mute. If you'd unmute yourself and start over.
Oh, hi. I'm Amanda. I work with everyone here to figure out how to work webcams, to design the best materials for your workplace campaigns. So we have the 2020 print materials, and that's as usual as our pledge forms, posters, and rack cards. Like Kim had mentioned, if you're not in the workplace right now, these are still good to post in a place that's physically checked into periodically. And these are already ready to go, so just reach out to your campaign manager, Kim or Heather, to get those. These two posters are pretty impactful this year. They bring light to the recent living situations that Loanne had touched on. And another one might be developed as the year goes on and we need to bring attention to another issue. If your team isn't in the workplace at all, we have some digital options. You're going to have access to your campaign toolkit, and that toolkit is going to be available on our website as well as a Dropbox folder. You don't need to have a Dropbox account to access that. You're going to find your customizable email templates as well as some images that are already formatted for email that can be put into any email you choose. There's also going to be some ready-to-go social media posts and how to use those, as well as a website and email-friendly version of that rack card. That's the one all the way to the side right there, so that there's no flipping or 2 pages. That's just easy to embed in an email or as an attachment. The last one is some fillable PDFs. Our pledge form is now available as a fillable PDF, which is pretty great. This works really well with payroll deduction. And you might want to talk with Heather or Kim and your workplace to find out what's the best use for utilizing this, because we don't want you to email credit card or bank information. But it's really easy to fill out for people that are already on the computer, and they can print it off and give it to your office or whatever works best for you guys. The last thing that you're going to see here is this fillable PDF flyer version of a poster, and you can put your coordinator information there and send it as an attached PDF, just as is, or you can take a screenshot of that and email it out. And that's a really good way to get that impactful poster out without the print piece. And as your campaign evolves and digital needs arise, just reach out to Kim or Heather. Like Kim had said, if we can just get ahead of it early and things are changing, we're here to help as much as possible. That's it.
Hi, I'm Heather, and I am a workplace campaign manager, and I'm going to talk about some virtual special events and how you can utilize that in a new work environment. We are all facing a new work environment. Some of us are working from home, or we have social distance requirements, and we want to give you some ideas on how you can still have fun events and bring some excitement and also spread the word about your United Way campaign. Some questions to consider while planning your events. What virtual meeting platform does your company already use, and what are the capabilities of that platform to support a special event? How much time will your company allow for a special event during work hours, or do you need to move your special event to after hours? And is this a great time to kind of recreate your special events and maybe try out some new and exciting things? I also encourage you to think outside of the box, recreating your already popular special events. Use one or a few ideas that you see on the screen. Check out the United Way special event guide, or plan a meeting with your United Way staff member. One thing I would like to also encourage you is to think about buying local when you are buying things for your silent auctions, for your raffles, or incentives for your special events. A lot of businesses in our community right now are hurting, and it's a great way to help them out and support local. And also, bring some local items into your events so people might consider shopping at these local establishments. Another thing is gift cards to restaurants for date nights. You could combine a couple of different gift cards and create a date night for a silent auction. When you buy items for donations, your special events, for your special events, they are tax deductible. And donation receipts can be found in the Dropbox. Now that I have you thinking about virtual special events, you may be wondering, how are you going to collect the payments virtually? New to this year, we have a special event platform that will allow employees in your company to virtually pay for their special event fees. On this site, you can set a total goal for all special events combined, set a goal for each event individually, promote the different events during your campaign, track money raised for each event, set up pre-populated amounts with descriptions, process credit and debit card payments, and track offline donations such as cash or checks. To set up the special event site, please reach out to your United Way staff member at least 3 weeks before your campaign start date so we can make sure everything is ready to go. Of course, if there are minor tweaks or changes that you are wanting, we can change those as the time goes on. It'd be just nice to have those 3 weeks. Another virtual platform that is available to you as a resource is an auction site. This auction site allows you to run your silent auction virtually and process the payments. The features of this site include listing out all silent auction items, allowing for buy it now options, displaying photos of each item, including descriptions of each of the items, assigning bid numbers to staff so their name is not displayed while bidding, and it can process credit and debit card payments. Along with the other special event site, we ask that you give us 3 weeks to get this set up. And if you would like to use the auction platform, please reach out to your United Way staff partner. Remember to have fun with your special events, get creative, and always know that your United Way staff member is there to help you with any ideas and further discuss your special events.
Apparently marketing doesn't know how to unmute themselves today. Both Amanda and I have done that. So I'm Marianne Waneke. I am the marketing and communications manager here, and I will be talking about a couple of additional resources that we have available for you. One of them is going to be the campaign theme. As you know, we usually have themes that focus on the future, like give today, change tomorrow. Because of you, there's a way, and that was used to, so there's a way to get to where we want to be. And so we included that in our thinking this year. We're brainstorming and thinking about where the needs are. And one of the things we really thought about is the fact that while the services for across the age spectrum are critical, we also know that early interventions in some cases can help make a better result down the line. And so with that, I will give you this year's campaign theme, which is United, we shape the future, because we know it's going to take all of us together to create the community and the future that we all want to live in. And a lot of this was discussed, and we were getting there before COVID really hit. but it really plays well now, especially because of COVID, because we're looking at what that future is going to be and figuring out what our new normal is going to look like. So you are welcome to use this. It will be one of the resources you have, is to use this logo. But we understand also that there may be other phrases or taglines that work better for your company. So you are, of course, also welcome to come up with themes within your companies if that's what works best for you. So that will be available to you in the toolkit and the Dropbox. The other resource that we will have for you is our 2020 campaign video. And this one we knew pretty much from the start was going to have to do double duty because we were just in the beginning phases when the COVID pandemic hit and the shutdown started. And so as we got into the development and started working on what we really wanted to talk about in our video this year, we needed to have it go two directions. We both wanted to talk about what we were able to do during the shutdowns. As Loanne mentioned, we provided money for food. We had initially some small piece for childcare, and then of course the mental and behavioral health piece emerged as such an urgent need. So we wanted to, we didn't want to downplay that or make light of that, but we also wanted to really focus on looking ahead to recovery and what that's going to mean. Because just because even if we get to, when we get to phase 2 and phase 3, the needs are still going to be high. We're still going to see unemployment in places. People are going to be facing challenges and choices. If the kids are home and they have to go to work, what do? If they're at home working and the kids are home, how does that work? So we know people are going to have a lot of challenges facing them. And then one of the things we've also heard is that when school does resume, there will be an increased need for services because schools, teachers and school nurses and folks like that are mandatory reporters. And again, as Loanne mentioned, kids have been home. Maybe they haven't been able to tell anyone if something's going on. And so when they get back to school, we're probably going to see an increase in reporting. And so that's kind of to give you some background on where we were going with and what we were thinking about as we developed the campaign video. And so now we're going to play it for you. And I would just like to say thank you so much to the local nonprofits who participated in this, and to local production company Moviz Films, who donated much of their time and resources to create this film. So let me make sure all of this technology is going to work, and I will get it playing for you.
The COVID-19 pandemic changed lives across our community. Loss of jobs and school closures created new challenges. People wondered where their next meal was coming from.
Food's very basic. It's a necessity we all need. And when people think that there won't be any, there's sort of like that little panic thing.
Well, everybody needs food. And I'm not sure if their unemployment's going to get added, or if they don't have money, they're going to need food.
Stress, depression, and violence grew as the weeks went by.
The stress that this isolation, working remotely, just all of this has had on people can be really traumatic depending on the situation that people are in. We're all experiencing this extremely differently.
People struggling with mental and behavioral health or substance abuse, violence in the community, those didn't go away, but they're being magnified by the challenges that our community suffered during the lockdown.
United Way of Benton and Franklin counties was there to help, like we have been for more than 60 years. Our COVID-19 Community Response Fund quickly filled gaps to make sure people in our community would still have access to food.
These are all items I was out of. It's like God was looking over your shoulder saying, these are the things that she needs. I have terminal cancer and use oxygen. So I am a target if I leave the house.
And access to mental and behavioral health services.
Thanks to the United Way, we are able to continue our mental health services, our therapeutic services to survivors of sex trafficking here in the Tri-Cities. We're able to do that online. They're still able to meet together as a survivor support group. They're still able to get the counseling they need. They're still able to get the therapeutic services they need. It's just not the way we used to do it.
We grew collaborations with individuals, businesses, and area nonprofit agencies to quickly address the challenges in a way that no single agency could alone.
There are a lot of nonprofits who either had to cut back on staffing or working from home. They didn't have fundraisers on staff. Maybe they were all volunteers, or they had fundraisers that were canceled, or their thrift shops were closed. And so their capacity to refill the bank as they were serving people was limited to non-existent. So we really looked at how can we help them continue to step up to the plate and serve people when they couldn't raise money themselves.
Now, the emergency response to COVID-19 is passing. Our community needs us now more than ever as we all focus on recovery and rebuilding. You can help our community emerge stronger and healthier.
When we are all able to return back to work, we are anticipating quite an increase in our services because of the fact of those needs that were put on hold during the meantime. The fact that when people go through stressful and anxiety-producing situations, it takes a while to be able to heal and process through that.
Yes, we have seen a definite increase in need of services. For most of us, this has been a really difficult season, and we've been faced with bouts of anxiety or depression or confusion. The clients we work with have depended on the people around them to be the stronger ones as they're healing.
When you give to our local United Way, we make sure it's going where it's most needed. We look at what's happening in our community and fill the gaps which grew even bigger during the shutdown.
The disclosures of child abuse are down dramatically, at least 40%. And that makes sense too because the kids aren't in school. And so unfortunately, the majority of children who are abused by someone that they know. And now many of them are isolated with the very people that are abusing them. And they have no way to tell anybody.
The state agencies are telling me to be prepared because the unemployment is going to spike this. People have been out of work for a longer period of time, and so they're coming to the food bank.
So we've seen a lot of increase in online exploitation, a lot of people grooming children in particular who are now home and on their devices all day. So we're seeing a lot of parents calling in and looking for help for their kiddos that way.
Your gift shapes a future where no child goes hungry, where everybody has a safe place to sleep, where students have the tools to succeed, where anyone can access mental health services, a future that we all want to live in. Give today to help our community rebuild and make our new normal the best it can be. United, we shape the future.
So that resource will be available to you as well. You can feel free to use it in presentations or in other ways, share it with your staff to really get the story out and let people know why help is needed on an ongoing basis. And that is it for me. I'm going to turn it back over to Kim.
Awesome. Thank you, Marianne. I think the video did a great job of displaying not only what the nonprofits are experiencing, but as well as highlighting what their clients are experiencing. So, and on that note, I'm excited to introduce a new platform. I hope it's not new to most of you. It has been available to the public for use, Volunteer Tri-Cities. So, over several years, we have heard from the community that there's a need for volunteerism. And volunteers wanted to do specific types of projects, and there was a disconnect between what volunteers wanted to do, how nonprofits were recruiting their volunteers, and as we grow as a community, it just became clear that we needed a centralized place for people to sort of shop for a volunteer project or individual opportunity. We're excited to announce our partners, Bechtel and Amentum, with the Volunteers Tri-Cities platform. So as you can see, the platform here is an easy to access searchable function to identify volunteer projects as an individual or as a group. Initially, this resource was brought to the community to help do some more day of caring type of activities, but right about the time we were planning to launch that, COVID hit. We also didn't know how this was going to serve the nonprofit communities with the lockdown situation. And so we paused to get their feedback. I am impressed with how quickly, with the lockdown situation, and several senior volunteers have had gone into their homes because they were a sensitive population, how quickly the nonprofits pivoted their volunteer projects to better accommodate volunteers who were volunteering from the home. And so we're also proud that we had an opportunity to partner with Tri-Cities Strong launch. We were their volunteer connection. The site was ready to go for them on their big media campaign. And we were able to partner with the Lieutenant Governor's Office for a Washington Mask Challenge, where we were able to connect community businesses, community volunteers to the nonprofit community that were deemed essential and needing masks. And so the need initially was around 5,000 masks, and we were able to fulfill with connecting people to about 4,000 masks. Since then, the mask need has increased, and there's still a need for that. But we even had a spotlight opportunity where if people were interested in just helping with masks, it was easy to find in a search function through the site. So the platform benefits are that it is mobile friendly, it's web friendly, it's integrated with social media, so it's easy for people to navigate and search for volunteer projects based on their interests. It's easy for people to identify family friendly projects if they want to include their kids or create some other type of activity while they're volunteering virtually from home to keep their kids busy. And it's a centralized place for nonprofits to post their needs and keep them current and up to date. And so what is the benefit to you and your, as an individual or your organization? Well, we're going to share that with you. So we're excited to really kind of highlight how this could benefit your organization and how your organization gets involved with volunteerism in the community, to track your impact on volunteerism, but also to report back. So just on your screen, you can see kind of two views. The one on the left is sort of a corporate dashboard that you can reference when you are using this site to engage your employees through volunteerism. There's an opportunity to do some closed volunteer projects. So you might shop for one of these volunteer projects if it's a group, if you're trying to get a bunch of people virtually involved and still connected to the community. There's a way to close a group volunteer project, and that someone from your organization could manage the volunteer sort of project connection, tracking volunteer hours, and then once they've checked into the event or completed the project, that is a live dashboard. So there's no delay as long as the attendee information and the volunteers information is current. That's something that you could use to either report back to corporate, or whoever. If you're a small organization, maybe this is an opportunity that you report back to the community or use it for your annual report. So several organizations have kind of been interested in that resource, whether they're doing closed volunteer projects or whether their employees log in just to track their own impact. So the second photo is just a picture of what a volunteer's profile would look like. And they do also have a dashboard that they can track their impact. I did not include that. But as you can see too, in the blue area, they can also print off a volunteer resume if they're wanting to volunteer for a specific organization. Maybe they're interested in a promotion. I don't know how your organizations tie volunteerism to efforts in the workplace, but there's some opportunities there. It also will let individuals who have a specific interest, it'll let them know that a new volunteer project has been updated or added. And so if they'd like to get involved, they can do that on their own outside of the workplace. So there are some benefits there. And again, if there are any questions about this resource, please let me know. We are excited to work with your organization so that organizations can best leverage this platform to support the community, but also show how they're really making a dent in the community with involvement. And so we are close to the end of our quick resource presentation. I want to thank everyone for joining. I also want to mention that campaign supply bags with paper resources, if your organization received paper resources in the past or pledge forms, those will still be available to you. You would just reach out to Heather or myself to schedule a time for a drop off or a pickup. We're completely flexible in a safe social distance way. We can even drop things in a trunk if you need to. And with that, we also invite anyone, if there was a question that you had regarding a presentation, please enter that into the Q&A section. We are happy to take a moment and have anyone answer questions that you may have, or if there's something we did not cover. You can also identify yourself. Everyone, I think, is logged in as anonymous. If you want to click above the Q&A section where you'd enter a section, you can change your name so we know who's asking the question. And we will just wait a moment to see if there's any activity. We also plan on sending out an email after this recording or this training with some additional resources for your quick reference. So that will be coming following the training as well. And so I don't see any activity in the chat box. It looks like the presenters did a great job addressing all of your questions. At this time too, if there's something that I forgot to mention or you'd like to mention in closing before we end the training, please take yourself off mute and add those comments in now. Great, thank you everyone for joining us. It looks like we covered everything. I appreciate your time and attention. We're available if you have questions after this is all over. Thank you again for joining us and have a wonderful day.